So here we are in Darwin, just arrived about an hour or two ago, and just gone for a drive and pulled up on a headland overlooking Doctor's Gully, which is the location where the Catalinas were based during World War II. And down there you can see the tourists feeding the fish. It's apparently a regular occurrence, and there's some quite large fish there, well over half a metre some of them. So it looks like a very popular place on a nice sunny day in Darwin. Looking back towards Doctor's Gully there, where they're feeding the fish, and I'll just pan around along the esplanade over there, and then over to where the port is, where the Japanese managed to drop a few objects from the sky in 1942. I spotted before I came up here on Google Earth something that looked like an old gun emplacement. So I'm just walking towards it now, and certainly looks fairly ancient, from perhaps World War II. Then again, it may be something else, but I can see a historic sign there, so I guess I might be right. So we're not far from the East Point Military Museum, where there is another large gun emplacement. So it's amazing what you can find on Google Earth when you look. There's another anti-aircraft gun site that you can see the original Quarantine anti-aircraft gun site on the other side of Darwin quite clearly when you look on Google Earth. So what do we got here? Oh, this is where the boom was. The boom site, the boom defence. So there were twin 6-pounder 100-weight guns, one at Dudley Point and one at West Point. So this is where the original boom was. So this must be the anchor point for the boom. The East Point Military Museum's over that way somewhere. And this actually does look a bit more like a gun. Yeah, it is a gun site. So it must have been those guns that I read off the sign that were based here during the war. Quite a bit of erosion down there. You can see the tracks and the compartments where the ammunition would have been kept. And the gun used to swing around in there, I guess. Not that I'm an expert on guns, but there you go, another World War II site in Darwin. So here we are at the East Point Military Museum, inside the old bunker tied up with the guns, the command post for the bunker where the guns were.
We went out of the side of one house because we needed to build up the defences around the guns. So as long as that there was looting, which gave quite some people things they shouldn't have had. There was a leaving of the post, mainly by the RAF, and I excuse the RAF insofar as the ground staff were civilians in uniform. They'd never been trained in warfare, and I think it comes out pretty strong that the chaps who had been trained on the guns and so on stood still and stayed there, where the RAF was, I think on the second day, were 175 blocks short. We stayed with the same group right until we left Darwin in August.
Follow our direction table here.
2
once located in one of the smaller buildings about 200 metres from here.
I sent a plebiscite out to all the members suggesting that we give our Anzac Day banner and money which should sell by the association to Darwin High School. 100% of people said yes, and some of them wrote some very nice notes. So we're much connected.
It's a plotting table for the 9.2 inch guns.
Jack's story is interesting and compelling, and you can get a copy of it at the museum shop.
So this is on top of the command post down below. It's my wife in the distance there, we're going for a walk. There's the big gun site over there. It's a buffalo. Originally Australian design. So here I am at the East Point Military Museum. This is number 2 gun emplacement. So it's hidden back in amongst the trees, very well hidden. I didn't realise it was here. Interesting construction. I don't know what that there's for. It's the cordite room. There's the power room, which is the engine room. And we'll go through here, mind your head. A little mock up in there. Just the bottom of the guns. Quite interesting. Locked off area. So here we go, walking up to the top level of number 2 gun emplacement. And there's your big 9.2 inch gun. Very, very impressive. Go around this side. That's one big gun. Let's walk up these stairs. There's an old searchlight there. It's fairly impressive. See there's more buildings over the back here. Small concrete of some sort there and something else over there. Very impressive. Searchlight. That swivels around on that gimbal or whatever arrangement that we saw below in that other video. So, looking out over the entrance to Darwin Harbour. This is the one that's outside the museum in the public park area. There's another one inside that's got a gun, a 9.2 inch gun in it, number 2 gun emplacement. And what we'll see in here, probably nothing. Pretty much nothing. So this is at the rear of that gun emplacement, and see there's an open door here, so we'll see what we can find. Try not to trip. Just one little room. There you go. So here we are at the back of the 9.2 inch gun emplacement, the one outside the museum, and I don't know what this vertical structure is. I'll try and find out later. There's an open doorway here, so let's go and explore, see what we can see. So compared to the other one over inside the museum, this one doesn't have a gun in it, so it's all open air, and we can walk right into the middle and have a look at all the various posi holes for ammunition, etc., and fuses and whatever, and look up to the ceiling. And hopefully there's no one in here going to knock me on the head. It's probably going to be too dark down here. So still out here at East Point, and I just pulled up just to have a look at what this thing here is. I don't know what it is. It doesn't look like it's that old, actually. Overly old, but then again looks like it might be. So this is an engine room at Dudley Point. So the Dudley Point engine room. So there's a few bunkers here at the East Point Aero Modelers Club. I don't know what they're associated with. There's another one over there, and then there's another one over in here. So I need to find out what they were. Certainly look like something from World War II. Probably date back to World War II. So here I am in Darwin, and over there is the original Darwin post office, which was bombed and the postmaster and a lot of his staff were killed. It's now the Westpac Bank office.
Thank the Minister for coming here today, but also for his very valuable grant which he gave us. The North Force display has cost us $50,000. But the Minister and his department contributed $14,000 of that. So thank you again. I'd like to thank members of the Army who've done a great job in facilitating a transfer of the North Force Museum, where it was, in Larrakia Barracks, where people couldn't see it, to down here today. And if you're wondering where it is, it's actually down underneath the gun emplacement, so you're pretty well standing on top of it. I'd like to mention therefore Major Trevor Smith down the back there, who's been the major facilitator of this. Thank you, Trevor. Great effort. Taken 6 months at least. And also Lieutenant Colonel Peter Hurden, and importantly Lieutenant Colonel Chris Goldston, who's over here, the CEO of North Force. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel. Also, of course, the curators of the Darwin Military Museum. There's about 8 of them. One of them's overseas in Japan. I won't mention them by name except to say Mr. Norm Cram, without whom this museum would probably not be what it is today. Thank you, Norm, for wherever you are. I'd like to now hand back to Lieutenant Colonel Dunn, straight on to the Minister, say a few words about North Force.
Happy to. I won't acknowledge everyone again. G'day. we've reinvented. I'll just put the hat that way. No. Look, I reckon this is a great story, and it's not well understood by the broader Australian community. But if you think, as I do, about the Knackaroos, 1942, Bill Stanner, anthropologist, who's asked to raise a group of people to surveil the north and perhaps run a guerrilla war. Where would you start? Well, of course, he had to get the right men and women, or men. So he got 500 good Australian men, and then worked with a squad, I think 59 or 60 Aboriginal men, to work with them, surveilling Northern Australia over the period 1942 to 1945. Do you think what that would have been like? They had horses, they travelled the bush, communications weren't what they are today, and even today they're a bit how's your mother? So it was rough. And these guys were out there living off the country, providing the eyes and ears for the Australian security concerns of the time, that are right across the north. And so when they were disbanded in 1945, who would have ever thought that sometime later, 30 years ago now, Donald Thompson, Squadron Leader Donald Thompson, would have been asked to raise a similar unit. And that's what we've got now in Norfolk. And these are really important people. They're operational. They're not sitting on their backs. I shouldn't say this. Our defence community, our men and women in uniform who are doing valiant jobs elsewhere in Australia, are not as operational, many of them, as our Air Force colleagues. And they've got a constant job of that surveillance of our northern borders. They've got a constant job of working with the Aboriginal communities across the top to understand what's happening in our environment. As Lieutenant Colonel Galston will tell you, and all of those who've been involved in Norforce in the past, it's an extraordinary job of work with very unique skill sets which have been developed as a result of that initial foray 30 years ago by Donald Thompson. And I want to thank Norforce and for the magnificent work they do, but understand it grew out of the Knackaroos. Whilst there was a break, it is really a continuum. And it's a good story, a unique Australian story, as I said at the outset, which is not properly understood or known about, frankly. And the more we can actually tell people around the country what this means for us in the past, for the past, and now currently, the better off we'll all be. And of course, the significant contribution to Norfolk today is made by Aboriginal soldiers. I think about a third of the manning of Norforce are Aboriginal men and women serving from different communities right around the Northern Territory. Now Norforce provides a unique set of opportunities for Aboriginal people, which exercise properly provides them with pathways to jobs which they would not otherwise have. So they develop their own intrinsic skill set, but at the same time they've got the military bearing, they wear the uniform, they understand the military ethos, and they become members of the Australian Defence Force. At the same time as living in their community. What better outcome could be? So for Norforce, thank you. We build on this tradition of the Knackaroos, and this, I haven't seen the, it's down here I think, up under us, but I'm really looking forward to it. I've got a great passion for Australian history, but I'm getting, as I've been in this job now, the military job for 3 or 4 years really, I've got a really deep, I think, a deeper understanding of what the military ethos is all about. And it's that ethos which I think is reflected so glowingly in Norforce soldiers. So thank you for the work you do, and if you could please pass on our thanks to all your men and women who work for you and with you. But to say about the Knackaroos, we're here because of them, you're here largely because of them. We ought to, and I know that we had some Knackaroos up here recently, 6 I think, is that the number?
6 in 1 year.
You know, what a unique thing. And we ought to say thank you to them for their service to us. They did a great job for us during the Second World War. We need to pay tribute to them, and this display helps us remind us and give us all a bit of learning about what happened in the past. So thank you.
Amazing what a passport team of combat engineers are in waiting
Is that right?
They were in for 2 days.
Oh yeah, that's their
To
effort.
finish something and they said, right, what do you want us to do next?
It's their element, isn't it?
Oh, that's good. So you got them.
Stuff from both, yeah, original stuff, samples. We've had a lot of this stuff for years, which is all macaroons cooking, food weapons and everything, and obviously it couldn't be on public display because it was at Lorikeet Barracks, but bringing it in this facility is a perfect opportunity to get a public eye and tell our stories. So you see, some of the things are Nakaroo stuff, and some of the stuff is obviously milk or pre-milk or stuff. So, yeah, quite impressive. Maybe they actually sat on the table with dinner last night, right in front of me. Yeah, and we've got, you can see some photo installations and stuff here. We've got thousands and thousands of archive photos, original letters and transcripts from the right through that era. In fact, we've got some Darwin mobile.
It's Lacey.
Yeah, it's Peter.
Peter Lacey.
Yeah, it's Peter. I think that was the first British trial problem. Still got him on the books.
Yeah, he's
So a lot of this, there's so much more of this stuff that we can actually now archive and get on display eventually as we move along.
How do you reckon it is? Good?
Hey, you did great. If you come this way, so we'll show you a special photo.
And we had our new building.
Yeah, we can expand, that's right.
Good night.
You recognise that fella there?
There you go.
Oh yeah, really?
Of course, yeah, Mike Jeffrey was the like, almost founding father of the modern concept because he brought the SAS up here with Bill Stanton. In fact, Tom Pauling was saying, oh, I've got a bit of a Stanton mustache now myself.
Just take a couple of minutes.
So here we are inside the World War II fuel tunnels. You can hear running water. Holy shit. Look at this. Look how big this is. It's incredible. This is at the far end of the tunnel, and you can see through, and there's daylight up the other end there. Probably a bit dark for this camera. Amazing. Lots of photos here. Okay, so here I am in Darwin still, and I'm at the Quarantine anti-aircraft battery. This was manned by number 2 heavy anti-aircraft battery unit, and has been preserved, which is good to see. I think the Queensland government has a bit to learn from what you see up here in the Northern Territory. So it looks to be fairly intact. I haven't looked inside yet. All solid concrete. See if I can find an entrance here. So here I am at the Quarantine anti-aircraft site, manned by the 2 heavy anti-aircraft battery during World War II. Still reasonably intact. There is a site a little bit similar to this in Brisbane, down near the mouth of the river, not far from Fort Lytton. But unfortunately the public don't have access to it. So I'm not an expert on anti-aircraft gun sights, but I assume this is the fire control, gun control, and maybe ammo storage area. There's a big underground room down there, accessed by those stairs. It's probably a bit too dark to photograph with this little video camera, but there's all sorts of openings and little rooms and all sorts of things here. I'm sure my mate Russell Miller in Brisbane will know what all these things are for. I certainly don't. This is Doctor's Gully. Yeah. So this is where the flying boat base used to be. I imagine it's very, very different to what it used to be.
We also get snapper coming in, Golden Trevally. It just depends on the tide and the weather as to what comes in on any particular day. Go down and give him a little bit more fish. Give him some decent sized fish. Some bits I was giving him. Okay, so we get lots of different fish in. Depends on the tide and the weather. This is our first morning feed for for about 10 days or so, 2 weeks. So they tend to get out of whack. It is a bit of a habit that they come in. Those two yellow ones around here are very pretty. These are the mother-in-law fish, these charcoal coloured ones here. Very important to have in the bay. Up till today. We'll also tell you a little bit
Excited.
So this area is very interesting, has a lot of history.
Nice, isn't it?
So here I am in Darwin at the Australian Aviation Heritage Centre on the outskirts of Darwin on the Stuart Highway, home of the B-52 bomber. We'll go inside there shortly. So just to show you what's happening around the outside here. So let's go inside and see what we can see. So that's the tail of the B-52, and as you can see it takes up the greater proportion of the hangar. There's a Mirage there in the distance. My brother probably worked on those. It's one of my favourite RWF fighter aircraft, the Sabre Jet, which I would often see flying around Townsville when I was a young boy growing up in Townsville. There's the drop wheel on the end of the wing of the B-52. As you can see, it only just fits inside the hangar. And here we are up the front of the B-52. It's called Darwin's Pride. And quite fittingly, it's part of the 43rd Bombardment Wing. And of course the 43rd Bombardment Group were based in Australia during World War II. It's a different view of the B-52 bomber that's here. Quite a big beast. There's a B-25, I think, looks like, over there in the distance. And the Mirage in the background there. And this is a Japanese aircraft that was shot down around Darwin, flown by Petty Officer Hajime Toyoshima, and he was captured. Seems to have red painting on the sides, or whether that's rust, I'm not sure. And here's a B-25D Mitchell bomber. It's called Hogmouth, and its serial number was 41-30222. It's been restored to museum display status, and that's its tail assembly there. 41-30222. It's got no rear end. Managed to stumble across this as I was driving through Parrot. I'd just been to the markets and saw a sign on the side of the road. So it's the original Qantas Empire Airways hangar. It's mostly full of old vehicles though.